Before we go any farther, I guess I should introduce myself. My name's Makoto Naegi.
Just a heads up, there are going to be major spoilers for the Danganronpa series in this video. Some pieces of footage in this video will also have their color taken away due to the graphic nature of these games. Overall, viewer discretion is advised. Makoto Naegi, the ultimate lucky student turned the ultimate hope from the Danganronpa series. For some quick backstory, Makoto was just your painfully average run-of-the-mill student, the same kind of boy that you'd see just about anywhere. Despite this, something completely out of the norm would happen to him. He was randomly selected and given the opportunity to join one of the most prestigious schools in the world, Hope's Peak Academy, a government-run high school where usually only students who are the ultimate in their fields may attend. But every year, the school holds a raffle to select a random normal student in the country to invite and deem as the ultimate lucky student. Makoto was one of those lucky students. But as luck would have it, he would also find himself to be a part of the first killing game. After the world fell to despair by the hands of one of his own classmates, he and the rest of his class had their memories wiped and were forced into situations where they felt no other choice but to betray and kill one another. But thanks to Makoto's determination and undying will to live on, he and his surviving friends managed to defeat the mastermind and escape from the killing game, earning him the title as the Ultimate Hope, dedicating his life to bringing as much hope as he can to those lost in despair, no matter how deep in they are. And today, we'll be seeing if Makoto is capable of spreading that hope to somewhere completely different. A place where both hope and despair exist in their most extreme forms. The world of Super Smash Bros. So getting right into things, Makoto would be a generally lightweight fighter. He'd have 2 jumps and no additional movement options. Now, despite his undying hope, Makoto is still a pretty normal guy. No special powers, abilities. I don't think he'd even be able to handle himself that well in a fight. So as such, his fighting style is going to be themed around something else a bit more unconventional to a fighting game. But that doesn't mean he won't be fighting, he'll just be doing things his way. Makoto's moveset will be built around a combination of various gameplay styles that we've seen from the Danganronpa games, which for those who don't know, are mainly visual novels with logic-based puzzles that you have to solve in order to progress, puzzles of which that take place during class trials. Class trials are what students are forced to endure when a murder occurs, with the surviving students needing to talk to one another in order to try to figure out who it was that committed the crime. It's like Among Us. But not really. You have to shoot down your peers' arguments, present evidence to convince them of the facts, and slowly work your way to uncovering the truth. It's like Ace Attorney, but not really. It's a bit more interactive, with you needing to catch the hole in their arguments as soon as they happen in real time. You are also on a time limit, so if you miss your chance, then that spells bad news. But, just like in Among Us, credibility, or influence in this case, is a very important factor, with it representing your health in Danganronpa, just like in Ace Attorney. And influence will also be a very important factor here, cause just like with any argument, the more influence you have, the more effective your arguments become. So as such, the more influence you have, the more damage all of your attacks will deal, making it very much in your best interest to not make yourself look like an idiot in front of everyone. And whether or not you do will be entirely dependent on your actions. Makoto's influence will be shown with a type of gauge, one that fluctuates depending on your actions. You can gain influence by landing attacks, dodging attacks, or by using certain moves that I'll go over later. But you lose influence whenever you miss attacks or get attacked yourself. And with that in mind, let's logic dive our way straight into just what attacks this average teen could be using when going up against some of the toughest opponents that he'll ever have to face. Like I said, Makoto's moveset will be built around the various gameplay types that we've seen in Danganronpa, with a good chunk of them being inspired by the various class trial logic puzzles. But how he would be able to pull off these kinds of attacks did give me a bit of trouble. That is, until I played a certain spin-off side episode starring Makoto's younger sister. May I introduce the Hacking Gun, a device created by the Future Foundation, the organization dedicated to fighting ultimate despair that Makoto and his friends joined after escaping from the first Killing Game. The Hacking Gun normally is a tool that shoots electromagnetic waves of programmed code designed to hack machinery from a distance, so you'd think that this could only be used on robots, and normally, you'd be right. But here, he'll be using a special type of hacking gun, as it'll be used as the catalyst for Makoto's moveset, shooting and creating special types of attacks that all represent how Makoto and the many other students of the Danganronpa series fight to survive in the class trials. And of the many attacks that the hacking gun will give Makoto access to, the first will be Truth Bullets, fired straight as a break shot. Break was something that happened during class trials whenever you fired a truth bullet at the right statement that contradicts it, breaking that person's point with the evidence that was loaded in that truth bullet. Break was also the main go-to ammunition used by the hacking gun in Ultra Despair Girls, used to destroy enemies in your path, and it will be working similarly for this moveset, being a long-range projectile attack that's fired straight into a direction. The break bullet attack will be mapped to a few commands. It'll be Makoto's jab and side tilt, which will let him fire it straight forwards and even be able to walk forwards and backward while doing so. It'll be his up tilt, which will let him fire a shot straight upward, and he'll have it as his neutral aerial, allowing him to fire a shot straight forward while airborne. Regardless of which is used, the break shots fired deal small flinching damage, but the moves can launch foes if they're hit while in point-blank range of the hacking gun. But either way, it's a fairly weak move. They really aren't that spammable either, but you really don't want to be spamming it anyway. Instead, you want to be using this attack in a rhythm. If you shoot the break shots to a certain rhythm, the shots fired will slightly gain effectiveness, increasing both their power and influence earned if they land. After all, being both calm and concise is the best way to get your point across during any argument. You also don't need to use the same command in a row to gain this effect. You can alternate between the jab, side tilt, up tilt, and neutral air all you want, just so long as it's the break shot that you're using. So you will lose the stacking effect once the rhythm is broken, whether that's because you stopped, used a different attack, or just missed the timing. This additional function overall references bullet time battles from Danganronpa 1, panic talk action from Danganronpa 2, and argument armaments from Danganronpa V3. All minigames that involve you pressing buttons to a rhythm to break down the argument of a student that refuses to listen to reason. Speaking of which, if you can keep the rhythm of the break bullets up for long enough, the shots could start doing a lot of shield damage as well, being capable of breaking their shields as if you broke their armor of arguments. Though remember, you gotta be patient when using this move in the long run, because even if you can keep the rhythm going, if all the shots miss, then you'll end up losing all of your influence before you know it. Now for Makoto's dash attack, this will be more straightforward as Makoto uses the knockback function of the hacking gun. As the name suggests, knockback is great for knocking enemies away. So for this dash attack, Makoto will lunge forwards while shooting the knockback bullet, which will ricochet on him, leading to a bit of end lag, and it also deals relatively small damage compared to his other moves. But true to its name, if it lands on a foe, it will deal a ton of knockback on them, potentially getting some early KOs on opponents who just aren't alert enough. For his down tilt, this time he'll use the Paralyze bullet, another that's fairly self-explanatory. Makoto fires a Paralyze shot into the ground, and any foe hit by it will first be stunned in place, then launched away after the stun wears off. Now for Makoto's smash attacks, he'll be using Rebuttal Showdowns, one-on-one confrontations introduced in Danganronpa 2 where you have to cut through your opponent's arguments with your own. And how is this done? By turning your words into a sword, of course, because you just can't have anime without the sword. Makoto is now truly complete. So this will be translated to Smash by having Makoto conjure a digital truth sword from the hacking gun that slices and stabs, with the side smash having him swinging the blade overhead from back to front, mimicking the animation used when you cut through someone's statement in Danganronpa 2. And the up and down smashes will be sword stabs that mimic when you cut through other statements in both Danganronpa 2 and V3. With the up smash having him stab the sword straight up vertically from low to high right in front of himself, and the down smash stabbing it horizontally from front to back low to the ground. I should also mention, as a universal function shared by all three smash attacks, the more influence you have, the more shield damage the smash attacks can do. And for Makoto's 4 cardinal aerial attacks, they'll all be a move that references the Hangman's Gambit, a minigame in all 3 main games that has you find letters to fill in a blank word, just like when playing Hangman, though with more bullets. Makoto will fire a shot burst from the hacking gun, which is signified by a reticle that appears at the hacking gun's barrel. It can go straight forwards, straight back, straight up, or straight down depending on your chosen direction, with all 4 attacks doing the same thing. Foes in the reticle will be hit by the attack, which always launches them into the appropriate directions. Aside from the down air one, that just pops them up unless you can land the proper sweet spot, then it will spike. And to reference the functionality of the Hangman's Gambit minigames, if you can hit a single opponent with any of the Gambit aerials twice in a row, the second shot doubles in power and knockback, and you earn a lot of influence from it. But if you land a shot, then miss the second shot, you lose a bit more influence than normal. This only applies if you miss though. If you hit a foe with the Gambit, then hit a different foe with it right after, it just resets it. You won't lose anything. Using the Hangman's Gambit aerials probably would require some getting used to at first, but hey, that's why they're called a Gambit. There's a bit more risk and reward with them. Though if you do find yourself really having a hard time learning to use it, you could always ask Kaede for some advice. She knows all about the Hangman, right Kaede? Kaede? Makoto's grabs probably will be his safest means of gaining influence, since he always gets some from using his pummel and throws, and will never lose any if he misses his grab. But to grab opponents, Makoto will be using the Link Bullet. The Link Bullet, which was a function that let the hacking gun take control of whoever it hit. In this case, a shot will be fired, and if a foe is hit by it, they'll be forced into a mind-controlled state where they can't get away and are forced to stand still in front of Makoto until when and if they break free. Makoto will pummel by using the silencer function, which is used to get rid of background noise that might be obstructing the topic at hand, though in this case, it's just used to deal small chip damage without knocking the controlled foe back to their senses. The forward throw will simply have Makoto use knockback to send the foe forwards. The back throw will have Makoto force the foe to walk to the other side of him, then once they're there, he uses knockback to send them into that direction. The up throw has Makoto force the foe to jump over him, which once again leads to Makoto using knockback, but this time to send them into the air above. And for my personal favorite, the down throw will have Makoto shoot the foe with a dance bullet, which, as you can guess, forces the target to dance. Though in this case, this will force the foe to use one of their taunts, leaving them vulnerable to allow Makoto to follow up with any attack afterwards. And by the way, you won't be able to cancel out of this taunt, so you better hope that whatever taunt you're forced to use is a short one. So something that I bet a couple of you have been worried about is the consistency of which that you'll be able to get influence. You're worried if you'll be able to reliably keep landing attacks to increase your damage output and not keep losing it. Well, fret not, because by using Makoto's neutral special, all of those worries will be mitigated. It can be concentration. This is an ability in all 3 main games that allows you to slow your perception of time, as well as the arguments that fly across the screen, therefore making them easier targets to hit. For Smash, holding down the special button will put Makoto into a concentrated state, of which will have a positive effect on all of his basic attacks. His break bullets will gain a slight homing effect, letting them chase foes down for a bit, and the rest of his attacks all gain a bit of size, helping their range to make them easier to land. A great asset to have to make landing hits and gaining influence that much easier, but as to be expected, it can't be used all the time, otherwise you'd just be holding down the special button at all times and would never let it go. Concentration is powered by a gauge of stars that appears above Makoto's head and quickly depletes while in use. It will slowly recharge while you're not using it, but best be careful, because if you let it completely drain out, his concentration will be broken. It will take even longer than usual to fill back up, and you won't be able to use it again until it is completely filled up. So it's a great tool, but be careful not to overexert it. That said though, if you ever find yourself at max influence, it will drain even slower and recharge a bit faster than usual. For Makoto's side special, he'll be showing off his 6 skills and big brain as he plunges into a logic dive. A minigame where you ride your train of thought to come to conclusions based on your own logic alone. This was a mechanic introduced in Danganronpa 2 and used again in Danganronpa V3 in the form of the Psych Taxi, but here it will strictly be using the version from the second game. A virtual board is created from the hacking gun that appears under Makoto's feet, and he automatically rides it straight forwards. While riding it, you can turn around and jump, and you stop the special by pressing the attack button. It can be used for horizontal recovery, but using it in the air causes you to fall with a bit of forward momentum, and you can only jump with it from the ground, so you will have to be wary of that. As for how long you can use Logic Dive, it all depends on how much influence you have, as using the special slowly drains your influence gauge and running out forces you to stop. So as such, it can't be used at all if you have no influence. After all, if you spend too much time thinking about something, it may not look good to others who are waiting for your responses. Running into opponents though can mitigate this, as you gain a good amount of influence from colliding into foes in your way. However, if you run into teammates while friendly fire is on, you lose a lot of influence. It's not very logical to hurt your teammates after all. Getting attacked will also knock you out of Logic Dive, but there's not too much penalty for this outside of the influence that you'd normally lose from getting attacked. So this is another move that you want to use sparingly. However, if you do have some influence to squander, you can press the special button again while riding the board to spend some extra influence and do a charge. You get a speed boost that shoots Makoto straight forwards with some super armor. Foes in your way take a ton of damage, and you get a lot of influence back if you can actually run into them, making this speed boost a great asset. But like most everything in Makoto's moveset, you gotta use it wisely. Otherwise, you could end up losing both your influence and your stocks. Now for Makoto's up special, it looks like we have a split in opinions. So this calls for a debate scrum. This was a minigame introduced in Danganronpa V3, where if at any point the students were split between opposing opinions, Monokuma would have it be settled in a debate scrum, where the students have to counter each other's points until one side comes out on top. But coming out on top is also taken quite literally in this case, because Monokuma also has the students' trial benches float high into the air to make it a skyrocketing debate. And that same idea will be applied here for Makoto's up special. Activating it will cause a virtual trial bench to appear around Makoto from the hacking gun, and at the same time, he'll use the move bullet from the gun to cause the bench to start ascending into the air. This bench will act as a temporary platform that only Makoto can stand in. It does have a max height to reach, but if you press the special button again while it rises, Makoto will force the bench to stop in that place. Like most up specials, this can only be used once while in the air, so Makoto has to touch the stage or get attacked before he can use it again. While standing in the debate scrum bench, you can of course jump out of it if you so wish to help with recovery, but you can also attack from it as well using the bench as a type of sniper's perch. And while standing in the bench, all influence changes, whether gained or lost, are double. After all, when you're a part of a debate, when it's your turn at the stand, all eyes are on you, and anything you say or do is even more effective than it would be normally. And finally, for Makoto's down special, he could have a counter in the form of a counter break. This attack more closely references how truth bullets work in the mainline games, where if someone says a statement that contradicts the evidence, you use that evidence to counter their statement and break it wide open. This is your run-of-the-mill counter, with Makoto going into a counter state, and if attacked while in that state, he'll retaliate with a powerful break burst from the hacking gun. But like everything else in this moveset, this counter is not to be spammed, because it is reliant on Makoto's influence. The more influence you have, the more powerful the counter will be, and you do gain a lot of influence as well from landing this counter. However, every time you use counter break but then aren't attacked, you lose influence instead. If you're going to have evidence ready to present, you have to use it when it's actually relevant. Trying to use it any other time will just make you look bad. For Makoto Naegi's Final Smash! He'll have a cinematic Final Smash that I'm going to call the Ultimate Closing Argument. It's a smash that can only catch one foe at a time, and it starts with Makoto firing a hope bullet from the hacking gun straight forwards. And if a foe is hit by that bullet, then they will be pulled in. The cinematic then plays out, with manga pages quickly turning as Makoto in his mind puts together the whole crime in action. After which, he uses what he's concluded to pin this crime on the foe and brand them as the Blackened. Afterward, the foe takes a ton of damage and is launched away when the cinematic concludes. However, if their damage goes over 100%, it will be an automatic KO. After all, people branded as Blackened in class trials usually don't walk away from them. For Makoto's alternate colors, he won't have any, because instead, he'll have 7 alternate costumes that let you play as other students who fill the same role across the Danganronpa series. With the first alt being the ultimate detective from Makoto's class, Kyoko Kirigiri. The second can be another important friend of Makoto's, the ultimate affluent progeny, Byakuya Togami. Next is the main protagonist from Danganronpa 2, a normal kid who highly admired Hope's peak, Hajime Hinata. And as a fun detail for Hajime, when he uses the Final Smash, he could take on the same awakened state that he does at the end of his game. The next alt could be one of Hajime's friends, quote-unquote. The hope-addicted ultimate lucky student who was chosen before Makoto and voiced by the same guy, Nagito Komaeda. The next character can be the one who's actually known for using the hacking gun, Makoto's little sister, Komaru Naegi from Ultra Despair Girls. Then for the final two, they'll both come from Danganronpa V3, with the first one being the main protagonist and the ultimate detective of his generation, Shuichi Saihara. And for the final ult, it can be the pseudo-protagonist of V3, the ultimate pianist, Kaede Akamatsu. I should also bring up that there is a height inconsistency for these 8 characters, with Makoto actually being the shortest, but I don't think that it'd be that big of an issue to slightly scale them all so that they fit on one rig. Size consistency has never exactly been a priority for Smash anyway. For these students' stage intro, it can show a large elevator come down and open up, with the student in question cautiously walking out of it with the hacking gun in hand, referencing how all class trials are preceded with students descending to the trial room in a large elevator. For their taunts, the first can show the student looking around cautiously and says a quote unique to them. The second can have them each doing their own pondering animation, as well as each say a unique quote. And the last one can have them hold out their hand and present a random pixelated gift, the same ones that you get from the Mono Mono machines, after which they put the gift away. And for their victory animations, their first can have them hold the hacking gun up by their head to pose and says a quote relevant to how hope will never die. The next can have them point their finger to the camera and says a quote to the extent about how the truth will always come to light. And the final can just show them standing there looking off into the distance and says a quote about how the day is won. And that does it for What If Makoto Naegi was in Smash! So, if you enjoyed what you saw and would like to see even more characters be given possible Smash movesets, be sure to subscribe. And if you want to support the show and help me be able to make more content for you guys, you can click the join button either below the video or my main page to become a sponsor for my channel. Doing so will get you access to my private Discord, as well as channel emotes. You can guarantee that your name appears in my videos, or even get the option of knowing what if character is coming up next a week in advance. I really appreciate anything that can be contributed. And of course, if you have a character that you want to see be given a possible Smash moveset, leave a comment down below, or contact me on Twitter at BrawlFan1 on Twit. I hope you all enjoyed, and thank you so much for watching!